Hey, in this video I'm going to show you how to perform SMD Reflow Soldering without using a stencil. With this method you will still obtain professional looking results as if you were still using a stencil, but the difference is it's much cheaper to order PCBs without the stencil. All you will need is a surgical blade or something that's really sharp, something like this, and electrical tape. We'll cut these electrical tape into pieces and use it to isolate the pads, and then we'll apply the solder paste and spread it across equally using a thick card. I'll first start by cutting some pieces of the electrical tape and isolating the pads, and I'll show you the progress as I go along. The first phase is complete. I applied the electrical tape vertically. Now I'll be doing the same thing horizontally so that I can cover the entire area of the PCB, and the pads of the LEDs are fully isolated and I can apply the solder paste. To accurately cut thin pieces of electrical tape, I first cut a small piece, place it on a hard surface, and slice through with a sharp surgical blade. Here I finished applying the electrical tape horizontally and all the pads are isolated now. I will repeat the same process and apply the electrical tape vertically and horizontally again, so I can add some layer height to the electrical tape, and this will sort of serve me as a stencil. Now that the second layer is finished and the electrical tape is a bit thicker, I will start by applying the solder paste. Here I roughly applied the solder paste and I will be removing the electrical tape. Hopefully the paste attached to the pads and stays there when I remove the electrical tape. So this is what the board looks like after removing the tape. The solder paste has been applied quite evenly, but of course with a stencil you will get finer results. The most important thing is that you do not have any excess solder on the pad, because you can risk shorting the pads when heating the board. I will now place the LEDs and place the PCB board on a hot plate set to 230 degrees and let the solder reach its melting point and attach the LEDs to the PCB board. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the same technique for this board, which is a lot more complicated and looks a lot more harder to do. But with enough patience, I will apply the solder paste evenly and show you that it can be used for complex boards like this as well. Here I have the second board that I will be soldering. The first one came looking quite good and works perfectly. And this one I'm using glue, electrical tape. Here I have the card that I don't use anymore and the solder paste. This is the board with the solder paste applied. I just applied a very rough first pass with the credit card, and I will be removing the electrical tape and I will show you what the board looks like next. Now I place the components on the PCB and I will be placing the PCB on a heat plate. So this is the result after applying the solder paste and putting the PCB board on a hot plate. As you can see, it actually has quite good results compared if you had to use a stencil, and the board seems to be working. I uploaded a blinking LED test and everything seems to work. You just need to be careful when it comes to small packages like this. You need to make sure that none of the pins are shorted. I use this mostly for very small PCBs because it's a very cheaper way to do it. The stencils are quite costly to ship where I live, and it's not feasible for me to spend like $20 every time I order a PCB. So this cost me like only $4 for this PCB. It would have costed me 26, I think, something like that with the stencil. And just using some patience and a nice sharp blade with electrical tape, I managed to get the same result. And it's actually a very good result in this case.